All right, everybody, let's welcome up Pastor Adonia.
Good morning. Sorry. So wonderful to see all of you, and so happy to have our GPA teams back with us. I wish you could stay all year, but please come through anytime. So I've really just been thinking since the beginning of the year that I really want to go back to the basics of the principle. I want to re-examine the principle. I want to see what else is there for God to teach us. Maybe what have we not understood fully, or what have we missed sometimes? Or maybe there's a new perspective that we need to take sometimes. So I thought, well, I'm just going to go back to the principle this Sunday. And I started at the beginning, and I opened up, and it's dual characteristics. I'm like, all right, let's see what there is to talk about in dual characteristics. So to start off, there we go. In the Bible, first pages, it says, "So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them." And in the divine principle, there's two different types of dual characteristics that are described. And the first is the more obvious type. There's the yin and yang, right? There's the masculine and the feminine, the positive and the negative. And it also describes in the divine principle how you can see these characteristics displayed in every aspect of our world, down to the tiniest atoms and molecules up through minerals, plants, animals, and ultimately in human beings. There's masculine and feminine qualities. And then also in the divine principle, it describes a different set of dual characteristics. And I have this from the divine principle here. However, there is another pair of dual characteristics in reciprocal relationship, which are even more fundamental to existence than the dual characteristics of yang and yin. Every entity possesses both an outer form and an inner quality. The visible outer form resembles the invisible inner quality. The inner quality, though invisible, possesses a certain structure which is manifested visibly in that particular outer form. The inner quality is called internal nature, and the outer form or shape is called external form. So those are the two types of dual characteristics that every entity possesses. And then if we ask, well, who is God? Just as it said in that very first quote from the Bible, well, God created us in his image. So if we want to learn about God, all we have to do is look at these characteristics that all things possess, and then we can learn about God, who is the originator. Is that a word? The start, the original internal nature and external form, and the original yin and original yang. So God himself then must have these qualities. God is the subject with dual characteristics who stands in the masculine position. Then who is he like? He is like us, you and me. He is the same as we are. Accordingly, the position of subject partner presupposes that of an object partner. It contains such a meaning. It arose out of its need for the reciprocal partner. And then also in the divine principle it says, in the light of our understanding of the dual characteristics, the relationship between God and the universe can be summarized thus. The universe as a whole is a substantial object partner to God. It is composed of individual embodiments of truth, each a unique manifestation of the dual characteristics of God at either the level of image or of symbol, as governed by the principle of creation. So this is I think most of us are familiar with this aspect of the divine principle, and this understanding of the dual characteristics. Most of us have heard this, yes? All right, yin and yang, internal nature, external form. I try to do a lot more reading, though. I was reading the section in the Chunsangyang that talks about the dual characteristics. And as I was reading through them, although the divine principle says that the internal nature and external form is the more fundamental nature, actually, all the quotes that Father talks about have to do, if it has to do specifically with either one, it has to do with masculinity and femininity. So all these quotes that I were reading started like this. What did God want to do by creating a man and a woman? If God is a personal God, who would he be like? He is the combined form of Adam and Eve. The fact that God possesses both masculinity and femininity makes him a being of dual characteristics. Anytime that True Father focused in on a type of dual characteristics, it was about masculinity and femininity, about yin and yang, about the opposites. So I thought, well, why is that? If the internal nature and external nature is the more fundamental, why is there so much focus on the other aspect? Well, I thought, well, perhaps, maybe that's because that's where God, after the Heungsang and Seungsang, after the internal nature and external form, the masculinity and femininity is where God actually gets to see his full self reflected in creation. Maybe that's where he gets to see the full beauty of all of his dual characteristics coming together, especially in husband and wife. But then also, perhaps one of the reasons why Father talks about this so much is because it's often in this relationship where we have the most hiccups. Maybe, I don't know. I think sometimes this is where we need the most help. We need the most education. We need the most guidance from Father. How do we do this? How do we make this work? And I know that there's a lot of young people here who are not married, so I want to also expand this beyond just, husband and wife. As team captains and members, you still have to make things work between the guys and the girls, right? And even among the girls, I'm sure there are some of you who are more outgoing, and there are some of you who are more reserved, guys too. There are some of you who are more messy, and there are some of you who are more clean. And I'm talking to all of you too, not just GPA. There are some people who are more opinionated, and some people who are more laid back. There are some people who are more, well, you know where I'm going with this, right? There are many people who are different from us, and sometimes we have difficulty harmonizing with those people. So that's the thing about a yin-yang, right? A yin-yang is, I didn't get a picture of it, but you know what it looks like. It's a black and white circle, and they're, opposing yet interconnected. But it indicates opposites. Or you could say balance. But it's the black and the white, in and out, front and back, light and dark, happiness and sadness, bitter and sweet. And the word opposite stems from the word oppose. So I feel like many times that things that are meant to complement each other or complete each other are often seen as opposite or opposing and irreconcilable. Flavors, colors, emotions, and in particular, men and women. So yesterday as I was trying to finish up my message, my mom called me, and I hadn't talked to her for a while, so I was like, okay, we'll have a conversation. And she's like, well, what are you going to talk about tomorrow? So I said, well, I'm thinking about talking about dual characteristics and men and women, and she had a lot to say. She's like, oh, yeah, about that. She was saying, gosh, I was so surprised when I first got married to your dad. How different we were. He always wanted to be intimate. I did too sometimes, but he always did. And he still surprises me that way. And I thought, I said, Mom, that's probably not, he's probably pretty average, actually. But it was just interesting to see, how that's played out in her life and in the lives of many of our parents and in our own relationships. So as I was looking through all these quotes that in the Chunsangyang that Father talked about the relationship of man and women and dual characteristics and how they're supposed to, come together and become a reflection of God's fullness. One of my favorite ones was this quote about change and development. Do the dual characteristics remain as they are? Are they at a standstill, or are they in motion? If they are in motion, why would that be? Why would they be in motion? Would it be to suffer a loss or create something more valuable? If there were a principle which dictated that action and motion took place to incur a loss, then our actions to achieve the ideal or advance toward our dream would be fruitless. If we were to suffer a loss through them, these actions would diminish and ultimately stop altogether. Yet, if set in motion with a view to creating benefit, they would grow bigger with time. So this reminds me of this quote I've used a few times already from the Bible that, I don't remember where it's from, but God is saying, have I not set a purpose for you, a vision for growth and prosperity? We may sometimes feel like we're in a deadlock with our opposite, whoever that might be. But there's a vision for benefit and growth. We're not meant to be at a standstill. To me, this shows that God was not satisfied with just the simple harmony of the dual characteristics within himself. Of course, it started there. But that he had to grow that and expand that and visualize it and see it in the creation and see it in the world around us. And also that, wherever we are at in the relationship with our opposite or our complement, that's not where we're meant to stay. Because with the giving of love, there is growth and development in something new. So here's another quote. Man and woman are not enough to fulfill love. They are just two beings. Just connecting them is not enough to fulfill love. It is the love from the central position that brings them together and moves them. This is like the key that unlocks the previous quote. The key is a love centered on God. I like that it doesn't say, when the men become more like the women, and the women become more like the men, then that brings them together and moves them. I like that it doesn't say, when you think more like me, then we can become one. I like that it doesn't say that I have to change you, or I have to change to be like you before we can become one. No. We are each a unique and beautiful individual embodiment of truth. We are each created as a direct reflection of some wonderful aspect of God. So the key is a love centered on God. This is one last quote I have here. What is the meaning of man and woman? They are different in function, so how can they be united? Usually, families center on themselves, with the husbands insisting that their wives love them most, and the wives insisting that their husbands love them most, and with neither feeling obligated to give love. That kind of selfish instinct prevails instead of a striving to love one another. The formula of loving one another really works. When this is applied, a small unit is formed, and that small unit will turn the world upside down. This real unit of husband and wife should be lived, for instance, and this content should be able to bring harmony among other religions in the same way. Even though nations have fought in the past, they too should be able to work together. Men and women from different nationalities should marry and love each other, and even a God-denying ideology like communism should be able to make unity with democracy. So, I feel like for some people this is a hard concept to grasp, that just being able to cross that bridge, going beyond these differences, to love another person without expecting anything in return, can actually make a difference, not only in your own life, but in your community, in between religions, in the world. But I think for people who have experienced that, who have had the experience of true love transforming their life, who have had the experience of true love completely switching around a situation to create something beautiful, this makes sense. But the tricky thing is, I can't convince you that it's true, because it's really only through the experience, and you have to believe it before you experience it. I think that's kind of maybe a little bit of what faith is. You might just have to try it. You might just have to do it and see it and feel it, and then know that it's true. But the point is that it's when there's a giving of love between these two opposite and completely different things that seem opposing and seem irreconcilable. When there's a giving of love, then it becomes apparent that they are complementary, that they actually complete each other. And then you're kind of opened up to the beauty of what the other side is. When there is a giving of love centered on God, that allows us to embrace the differences and appreciate them. And that is where the unity comes. That is when, together, bound by love, not by similarity, that's when we reflect the full beauty of God's love. And God can really be thrilled by us in our relationship. So I hope that there's something in this that you can grasp today. It's interesting. I'm learning more and more that sometimes I like to read things and I like to learn things, and I'm like, oh, that's so true. That makes so much sense. I love that. And it makes me feel like a better person just hearing it. But many times I don't actually then take action on it. And I still feel like I know it. I still feel like it's good. But then 2 weeks down the road, I've forgotten what it was that I learned or what I was inspired about. So really, the only thing to do is to take action. And that's the only real way to learn in your heart, about love and true love. So I encourage all of you to go out on that limb, give that love without the expectation of return, and just be open to the possibility of the transformation that might be there, of the full experience of reflecting God's love that might be there, and see what might start to happen in your life, starting in your family. But then, what could happen from there? So I'll leave you with that this week, and thank you so much.